New moons. Before we get started with today's episode, I do just want to say that I still need you to choose between amethyst, rose quartz, and obsidian. That is going to be its own separate episode. I didn't mention it in the episode you're about to listen to because I'm still working on the concept behind it, but stick with it. Okay, stick with your choice. Make sure that you have, if you can, do your research into those three crystals that I've asked you to choose between. And also, I do want to apologize for some of the issues with today's sound quality because you are going to hear some background noise that I couldn't do anything about. I needed to get this recorded, so my apologies if you hear constant banging in the background. Sorry. Life happens around you sometimes when you're recording, and you got to do what you got to do. I don't record in a studio, but I do have a podcast set up. So, I try to make it as quiet as possible when I'm recording, just like right now. And I also want to apologize for the times that you could hear me hitting the mic or touching the microphone. I do have to be rather close to it, but there's also a lot near my desk at the moment. And don't get me wrong, it's not cluttered. Everything's clean, of course. But in order for me, for instance, to look at my paper docket and not just the docket that I have on my laptop, sometimes I have to move things around and it ends up hitting the base of the mic. So my apologies for that. I just wanted to give you a heads up. All right. So let's get into today's episode. Vamos lá. Bon dia, new moons. I am Josie the Mustang, the Afro-Latina, Regina George of Witches, and you're aligned with the frequency of the luanovapodcast. And in today's episode, I'll be honest with you, I don't have anything in front of me. I'm going to have to stop to get my notes and everything because I was in a little bit of a rush to record this episode. If you're new to my show, I like to make sure that there are episodes for Mercury retrograde in particular because we have a lot of those. But I'm gearing you up for not only Mercury's retrograde, but also Jupiter's. And there are some very special guests that want to speak up about these retrogrades, and you're going to hear what they have to say. I'm sorry, did I just hit the desk and make a very loud noise? Hopefully, headphone listeners, that wasn't too loud. But they're going to speak up and give you their insight on these two retrogrades in particular. Now, there is another retrograde that I'm not going to focus on too much right now, because for time purposes, it would just add in too much. But what I'm always going to do when it comes to these is give you, I guess, advice or what I would suggest, suggestions, yes. There's a lot of planets that are in retrograde at the moment. Neptune, Saturn. So I need you all to understand that they each ask us to pause and reflect in different areas of our life. For instance, Saturn, being the planet that rules over discipline, may ask you to think more about your priorities, may focus a lot more on that and your authenticity with how you come across. Neptune, for instance, is going to, it keeps us kind of in this state of illusion. It can, depending on where it's at. For instance, if it's in Pisces, depending on the energy, depending on your birth chart placements, it can cause quite a bit of chaos mentally. And I don't mean that to scare anybody, but just kind of to give you an idea. If you have heavy or strong Pisces placements, for instance, and Neptune happens to be retrograde in Pisces, then it's not uncommon for you to maybe struggle with your spiritual boundaries, with feeding into illusions and delusions, and not in the best way. So things like that. That's kind of the more negative aspect of retrogrades, those retrogrades in particular. And so with Uranus, and I did have this in my notes, let me see if I can find, Uranus will be transitioning into Taurus. And so that retrograde will look more like unexpected changes or disruptions. Think of a bull just kind of going on the deep end. Okay. And so this area might show up more of like our values, our stability, even your finances. Okay. So think about how Taurus can be when they are finally upset about something. So combine that energy with Uranus and, well, I advise you to maybe soften your delivery. And also because Mercury is about to be in retrograde. If you are a Gemini or a Virgo, we know that when Mercury goes into retrograde, it tends to affect us in a way that we oftentimes don't acknowledge. And so if you have heavy Virgo and Gemini placements, it's not uncommon for you to feel a shift every time there's a retrograde and to feel as though you're coming out of it every time Mercury retrograde ends. Sorry, Mercury. I'm just being honest. So what I'm going to do, because I do need to pick up my notes really quickly, is advise all of my new listeners and those who have never done so before to go to luanovapodcast.net and read the entire disclaimer. Make sure you have read it at least once. Yes, on older episodes, you can hear me actually go over the entire disclaimer. It is quite long, but I like to advise people of that. That way they're not, confused as to why I'm the way as to why maybe I am not so open to certain types of people being here in my realm, because the Lua Nova realm does not welcome just anybody. That's why. Okay. And what I mean by that is, you know how witches don't have doormats that say welcome? That's for a reason. We're very particular about the energy that we invite in. And so as a practicing witch, that includes this podcast, I'm very particular about the energy that I invite in. So that is why I'm always pushing people to read the disclaimer at least once. Okay. But one moment, new moons, let me get my notes.
Lua Nova Codes of Manifestation. Códigos de manifestação Lua Nova.
Code 999. My ancestors walked before me and cleared my path to success. New moons, if you haven't already, check out the bonus episode that I recorded for you for Halloween. I know quite a bit of you checked it out based on what I can see, but just for anybody who is typically looking for episodes on Mondays, anytime we do have bonus episodes, they do air on Fridays. And as I mentioned, Court of the New Moon, which will be the spinoff of Lua Nova, will be coming in season 4, and it will be airing, I think I said twice a month. We actually still haven't locked that down yet. Twice a month or more than that. And that will be on Wednesdays. Okay. But we won't worry about Court of the New Moon just yet, because we have retrogrades that we need to discuss. I have done a ton of episodes on retrogrades, and today is no different. So rather than teach you about the retrogrades, I'm just going to kind of let my guests speak for themselves, but also I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, I guess, advice or what I suggest for you as not only a practicing witch, but a tarot reader and somebody that studies astrology quite a bit. So Jupiter's retrograde begins on November the 11th, and it will end on March the 11th of 2026. And Mercury's retrograde begins, November the 9th, but let me see when it ends. It ends on November 29th, and the post-shadow period of Mercury's retrograde will be December the 16th, okay? So whenever there's a pre-shadow period and a post-shadow period, that's when things are still a little bit weird, meaning that it still has that retrograde energy both before it even begins and after. Okay, so yes, the planet technically will go direct, or the planets will technically go direct at different dates, but do still expect certain energies to linger. And nobody that's an astrologer that I've come across yet has been excited about Jupiter's retrograde. I, on the other hand, see it a little bit differently, but it could be because I'm a tarot reader, so I'm kind of used to things being shaken up quite a bit. The Tower card moment is necessary. Now, if I get a Tower card for you today, I don't want you to freak out. Nobody ever wants that card. There's that card, and I think the Death card that people immediately tense up at. The Death card is actually one that you do want to see in a reading, because it means that you are completely clearing out one path of your life and one chapter and moving on to the next. So it is not actually whatsoever a scary card to get. Think of Scorpio's transformative energy, which we are currently in. Something I want to discuss with you all before we jump into the retrogrades themselves is that, of course, I have my new moons that were excited about the 777 series, because you've been manifesting nonstop, focusing on yourself, not focusing on the nonsense and the noise around you. And like I said before, it's one thing to be informed. It is another thing to be completely engrossed in negative energy and allow negative people to farm that energy. Okay. And there's the other side of my listeners and clients that are struggling. And so I'm going to kind of go briefly over a discussion that I had with a client. And I do have permission to talk about this, okay? I'm not going to say their name or anything like that, but they asked me, is there a time during retrogrades, any retrograde, where I should stop focusing on manifestation whatsoever? Meaning maybe I don't do the journaling and the affirmations, and I'm not focused on writing down my goals, because this client in particular is frustrated with where they're at with what they want to manifest. And I would advise those of you who feel that way to take this retrograde period to not necessarily stop altogether, but maybe take a break. Okay? Because the energy of Scorpio being about transformation sometimes means that we do need to stop. You could be pushing yourself too hard. You could be forcing something that's not really for you. And you know better than I do if you're feeling that way. You know that if, just as an example, you're wanting to manifest a new relationship, but deep down you don't really feel ready, then you're forcing a manifestation that won't really fit you. The mind can manifest anything. Neville Goddard said that. That's not something I came up with, and I'm sure many people before him have said it, and many people after. The mind really can manifest anything. And I'm sure you have examples of this. I want you to think of an example of a time in your life where you manifested something accidentally, good or bad. Anything from, man, I really want coffee, and somebody just randomly buys you Starbucks. You know, we don't drink Starbucks over here, so that's not an endorsement, but you know, I'm just saying as an example. But that is an example of you manifested, but it wasn't purposeful. You weren't, for instance, putting in the law of action in place here. Okay. And there are times when you want to manifest something big, but there are many things like the shadow work that you're still working on that are holding that back. And so this whole season has been a large focus on your shadow work, on healing. Healing is another way of saying shadow work. And so it doesn't matter if you too were grieving, you know, your furry best friend, or the job that you lost, or you're just in a part of your life where maybe things are not going the way that you want it. And I don't even mean just for 2025. I mean, in general. I do want you to take the time to wait. Not saying don't do your affirmations, but I've told you before, when it comes to affirmations, if you don't believe them, then actually all you're doing is creating more negative momentum by continuing to say them or write them. If you don't really think that you are ready for something, then you are creating an energy of not being ready. And that's actually completely okay to not be ready for something. One of the biggest things that I am trying to manifest at the moment, and when I say trying, I mean that the effort is there, but I feel like I still have some work to do emotionally. It has not necessarily caused me to be disappointed, but it has caused me to over criticize myself. I already know. Yes, I'm a Virgo. I know. I am very critical, and yes, I clean the top of my refrigerator all the time, and I like things orderly. I am the stereotype of what Virgos are like. Yes, I get it. But when I am not in a place that I want to be at when it comes to anything I want to manifest, I do take the time to wait and maybe redo my plans, and also understand that when it comes to the universe and the energy of the universe, that they sometimes have other plans for you. And if you're new to my show and you're not familiar with what I mean by when I say the universe, I'm referring to Source. Source is what many of you refer to as God. Source is not him, her, they, them. Source just is. Source is an energy. And so Source then has given us, and this is just my beliefs, you can have your own beliefs, our spirit team, meaning, you know, everything from your spirit guides like Hoshi was to me, and maybe your pet is to you, to, or, you know, not, some of you are uncomfortable with the word pet, you're familiar, you know what I mean, your ancestors, your guardian angels, those are all the universe. And so they work together to help us get where it is we want to be. They see us as these humans that are just completely lost, kind of like we're Sims characters. And so that's kind of how you have to see your whole life. Is I don't play the Sims, but I'm familiar with, the concept. And I was big boomer energy right now. If you're new to the show, I am a young millennial. I'm not a boomer. But I want you to get to this point of accepting, and as I work through this myself, that sometimes we need to regroup. And so retrogrades are a good time to do that, especially Jupiter's retrograde, because Jupiter's retrograde is focusing more on our root chakra. Remember, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. And the way that I've explained Jupiter in the past is think of the rapper Pitbull and that energy that he brings. It is happy, it is excited, it is ready to party, but it's also a little bit of luxury and fun. And I can do whatever I want, I can buy whatever I want, and I can be whatever I want. That is big Jupiter energy. And so as it moves into the sign of Cancer and it goes into retrograde, Cancer is more of an emotional energy, and I don't mean in the stereotypical water sign way. I mean I need to look inward, not what I've manifested externally, but how did I get to this point? How do I feel about this? Because Cancer is big on being like, how do you feel about that? I say this as somebody whose mother is a Cancer sun, moon, and rising, and has mainly just Cancer in her birth chart. So I know a little bit about the sign. Water signs surround me and always have, and I actually have quite a bit of water in my birth chart, but more on that another day. And so what I want to advise is to keep something in mind. Not only is Jupiter going to be retrograding, Mercury is going to be retrograding, and Uranus, okay? Uranus will be transitioning into Taurus. And so there's going to be these unexpected changes and disruptions, but that's all retrogrades, all of them. And so I don't know if you guys remember when Venus went into retrograde, a lot of couples started breaking up because every retrograde has its own energy. Remember, everything has an energy and a frequency. Everything you can think of. And so it is best to work with it and to understand it. That way you don't fear it. Okay? And so with Neptune also being there, Saturn also being there, there's a lot going on. And so oftentimes I say pause and reflect. Don't do the let's go full speed ahead. I could not get that out. So when you're on the road, and I say this as somebody whose car goes very fast, and there is always this idiot that is trying to race you to the red light, and you think to yourself, I don't know, maybe you're not from this area or you just are bored in your life. But I'm not about to race you or anybody else, because if you look ahead and stop looking at my car, you would see that light is about to turn red. So what am I in a rush for? I want you to pay attention to something next time you're on the road. Look at the most expensive cars and how they don't drive fast. I don't care if it's a Porsche. I don't care how fast that car is. Ferrari, Lamborghini, etc. I live around a lot of those. And so the other day, there was a Porsche in front of me. And do you think that Porsche was like, oh, let me gun it? Nope. It was taking its dear, sweet time, because at the end of the day, it is still a Porsche. And unless it absolutely needs to hit the gas, it didn't. Because people that already are at the level of wealth that they want to be at, or growing their wealth, they understand that there is no need to rush. That the money will continue to happen, that the success will continue to happen. So what am I in a rush to get there for? And so Jupiter is asking you just that. So are all the other planets, by the way, but Jupiter's energy is kind of I would call it the planet of manifestation, okay? And so during this time, you might notice a few things are off. Whether it's how you feel, your communication, because obviously when Mercury goes into retrograde, we worry about our communication. Your home life, where you need to feel the most secure, maybe something's off. Maybe you need to feel more nurtured in your space, which is why I made sure that the episode before this was about cleaning your space. I was not saying that you need to mop every day the way I do. What I was saying is that your space needs to be inviting and cozy, even if it's just for you. Okay, that is important because that is how you manifest. One of the best manifestors I know, she is outstanding at making her home the way she wants it. She wants it. Now, is it the way I would want it? No, I would go nuts because now nothing is organized in that home. I would go insane. However, that is how she continues to manifest. Everything just always seems to work out for her. And is it because she's trying? No. I've actually discussed the concept of manifestation with her just a few months ago, and she'd never even heard of anything like that. She was blown away. And I was like, you've been doing this whole time. And she was like, I guess I have. Now, that is what I'm referring to. People who are great at manifesting, it's about understanding the base, which is your root chakra of everything. It's the foundation. And so what we're looking at is keeping that nurtured, keeping that in check, so to speak. Okay. And with the other energies that are kind of out of whack, it is also about taking the time to look back at everything that we've manifested this year or wanted to manifest and seeing what needs tweaks and what we need to continue to push forward on. If you're at a time where you just feel burnt out, and trust me, as a podcaster who has to come up with new ideas every single week, I do feel burnt out right now. But it's okay to take a step back. Personally, when I get to this point, now you might not be a podcaster, but apply this to whatever field you're in, where maybe you need ideas with your job. I have to ask for suggestions. I gotta ask for help. When one of the episode, the Halloween bonus episode, that was Eric's idea. So I ran with it, loved it, and thought that's a good idea. Let's dress up as our highest self for Halloween. Actually, I advise dressing up as your highest self every day. But if you're new to manifesting, then that would be a good time to do it is during Halloween. Especially when the veil is at its thinnest, and therefore your spirit team is right there in front of you, like they always are. But now you can actually physically feel their energy. A lot of you are not necessarily, spiritual types like myself, where you're used to talking to spirits. So that was a good time to dress up as your highest self. But I say all of that to say that I needed that suggestion because I am feeling burnt out. And, no worries. I feel like this every single season. Every single season, and around November, I'm like, I don't know what else I'm supposed to talk about this season, guys. I am still sad over my dog dying. I am still pushing and in a very good place physically, but there is this emotional side of me that needs a break. And I think that these retrogrades are asking us to look at why we feel like we need that break. What is causing that emotion? What is causing that feeling? Focus on that before pushing forward. Now, if you're in a place where you're good and you want to continue to push forward, do not let anybody tell you that you can't do that during a retrograde. One of my biggest purchases ever was during a retrograde and a full moon on Friday the 13th. And it was the best decision ever. So it all depends on what works for you. Maybe you are chaotic like I am sometimes. So whatever works for you. At the time that you're hearing this, the full moon has already passed. I did not make full moon water. I actually don't make full moon water a lot. I've talked about that before because if I'm not going to use it, then it's just sitting there. So I have special spiritual water, but full moon water is something that I would advise to also use right now, whether it be in your cleaning your spiritual tools, cleaning yourself. This is a good time to clear out that energy as well. Retrogrades are a great time to clear out the spiritual clutter. All right. And so another thing we always look to do during retrogrades is to expect the unexpected. With Uranus retrograde and other outer planet activity, remember that these changes can be very sudden, but it's always for your greater good. Or, and some people would say this is just to liberate what it is that you were wanting all along. And so I always tell you during a retrograde, you need to stay flexible, but you also need to stay ready. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. I know you've heard that before. And lean into that intuition. Okay. And this is also a good time to let go. During retrogrades, you might hear from exes, ex-friends, ex-bosses, ex-coworkers. And I don't like that hasn't happened to me in a long time, and I wonder if it has a lot to do with where I'm at in my healing. It doesn't mean you haven't healed just because you heard from an ex. Like, you didn't ask for that. But sometimes I do think that the universe will send us lessons on purpose just to see where we're at. Remember, the universe isn't punishing you. The universe doesn't care about your morality when it comes to manifesting. The universe couldn't care less about if you're a good person or not, because some of the worst people ever are the best manifestors. But I teach you how to manifest with integrity and heart and empathy. And so when you do possibly hear from those ex-friends, ex-co-workers, etc., or those monitoring spirits that just sit on your social media a little more than usual during these retrogrades, what I'm going to ask you to do, as you are expecting the unexpected, is to not be rigid and to not respond in haste. Okay? Not, you know how I have an old episode called Make Haste. This is not a good time to do that. Let's do some revision rituals, okay? Let's, maybe update that vision board. Let's update those goals. Let's even update those affirmations. Yes, I have many episodes where I give you affirmations, but if none of those are working for you anymore and you're burnt out on them, there are many places online, YouTube, etc., where you could hear better, newer affirmations all the time, because I'm not to downplay my affirmations. I'm just saying, well, I haven't given you any new ones in a long time, and I've heard some really good ones. I'm sure that you can find some more. I shouldn't have said better. Mine are great. All right. And so I'm just looking over everything to make sure I said everything I wanted to say. I think I did. What I'm going to do before I get to your collective reading is give some shout outs right now. Really quickly, if I can find their names. Where are your names at? No, that's not it. Hold on. I clicked on the wrong thing, guys. Give me a second. There we go. Shout out to the following people for Venmo and Cash App donations. Alondria's biggest fan, who is located in Colorado. Indy, who is located in Augusta, Georgia. Hold on. Tiffany in Tracy, California. Dee Dee, who is located in, where you at? Hammond, Louisiana. And let me see, Mike, who is located in Palm Springs. And there was one more of you that I know was from Texas. Where'd you go? Where'd my Texas listener go? Where are you at, Texas? Where you at? JN? Is that like a YN kind of a thing? What are the initials for? I don't know. None of my business. JN, where are you at in Texas? You are located in Houston. So shout out to all of those listeners who decided that they wanted to donate via Venmo and Cash App. I appreciate you. The Luanova team appreciates you. Thank you. And I just want to take a moment to say that before I jump into your collective reading, and also give you a message from today's guest. Okay, so give me a second, because I have not forgotten about today's guest, but they are coming at the end of the show. So, one moment.
Luanova Collective Tarot Reading. By continuing to listen, you consent to having your cards read by Josie the Mustang. All collective readings are intended for a general audience and may or may not resonate with everyone. Visit luanovapodcast.net to book a personal tarot reading with Josie. Lua Nova Leitura Coletiva de Tarô. Ao continuar ouvindo, você consente que suas cartas sejam lidas por Josie the Mustang. Todas as leituras coletivas são destinadas a um público geral e podem ou não ressoar com todos. Visite luanovapodcast.net para agendar uma leitura de tarô pessoal com Josie.
All right, new moons. And if you haven't heard it, on the intro to the tarot reading, that is where you can hear a short disclaimer. And as I've said many times, the full disclaimers are on the Luanova website, luanovapodcast.net. Okay, so let's jump right into your reading. And Spirit, thank you so much for your help with this reading. And you all know, because you just heard it, that I don't do readings without consent. So if you're not consenting to having your tarot cards read, then I will talk to you later. Okay? For everybody else, and the cards are sticking together, that's not a fun time for me. Okay. This reading might be shorter since I do have more that I need to discuss with you, but let's see what your reading is this week. Oh, hold on a second. What's going on with my deck? Okay. Well, there's an issue with my deck. So 1 second. That's not fair to you. Let me fix that. Let's fix that right this second. All right. Love that. And Spirit, let me get one more card because we're going to make this reading shorter this week. So. Oh, okay. Well, that fits retrograde, doesn't it? It's not the Tower card, by the way, but let me put the deck aside. And we're going to start off with the Chariot. And so the Chariot, card number 7, the Chariot. And as I've already kind of discussed in today's episode, the willpower that you're going to need to continue to move forward will be determined by the level of healing that you're at, the level of healing that you're putting into yourself and others, and also if it's time for you to take a break. The Chariot is about movement. And so during a retrograde, just like I said, you can still have plenty of movement. You don't have to wait. You don't have to stop what it is that you are wanting to do with your life or your plans or your goals or anything like that. But during retrogrades, that's when we reflect, right? And so the Chariot tells me that even during that time, that things are still moving for you and they are moving forward. And so even if you are saying, you know what, I need to take a break, the progress that you have already put in is going to be taking place. Nothing's going to stop that progress because that's the Chariot's energy. The only thing that could ever stop that progress is actually you. And so what I'm seeing with this next card, which is going to end this reading, is the Two of Swords. Okay. And so whenever you see the Two of Swords, that tells me you're in your head about something. That there is this area of your life where you're not focusing on the decisions that's right for you. And no matter what it is that I've said to you, maybe other tarot readers, etc., have said to you, the focus on what other people want for you is stronger than the advice that you're getting from maybe me or somebody else saying to you, the best decision that you can make comes from you. What is it that you want? Because this is kind of telling me that this whole episode is based on this reading. You know, and now that I look back at it, this reading makes a lot of sense to me. That the progress that you have already been making and moving forward with this Chariot card energy, and I'm definitely picking up on, hold on. I saw a triangle. Is one of you drawing a triangle? But there's a triangle. There's some significance there. It's purple in particular. Okay. And I'm not getting a message with it. I just saw a purple triangle. So that will resonate with who it's supposed to resonate for. But, which kind of tells me, oh, well, this reading is forever, whoever resonates with that purple triangle. You might look up and there's one right there. You know what I mean? But what I want you to do is to get out of your head for a second. I do want you to take a break. I do. I get that you're doing your affirmations and you're on it. You're drinking, a gallon of water. All of that is beautiful. I love that for you. But what I also want is for you to just take a step back for a second, because the decisions that are coming your way, they're coming your way quickly, because that's Uranus energy that I just talked about. But when they come your way and you're like, you know what, I need to make a decision. Am I moving to this state? I need you, before you do that, to think about, is this what you're wanting to do? Or is this what you're being advised from somebody that they think, where they're telling you they think that's best for you, instead of you thinking that that's best for you? You know what I mean? Because that's what I'm picking up on, is this feeling of not trusting your own decision making. I get that we make big mistakes in our life. That's life. That's how we learn. But in order to continue to manifest and to actually enjoy those manifestations, I want you to be kinder about how you're going about treating yourself. I get it. You know, that guy was lame and you wish you would have never dated him. I get it. I've been there. Trust me. But if I had never done that, I wouldn't know what I don't want. So that's how I want you to look at it. If you had never bought that raggedy car that you just had to have at that time, then you wouldn't know, okay, in the future, this is what I don't do. In the future, this is what I do look for. If you had never moved into that side of town, even though there's this part of you that was kind of not sure if it was the right time, then you wouldn't be in this happy space now where you're like, you know what, when I look back, I understand why I had to do that to get here. So rather than looking at it as I've made all these mistakes, look at it as, well, and what was the reason for those? Retrogrades are a good time to look at that. Okay? So I know your reading was short this week, new moons, but it is because today's episode cannot be super long. My episodes have been so long lately, and I know you all don't mind. It's a podcast. But because I do have more episodes that I need to work on, I have got to at least start working on the outlines and the ideas for those. So that is your reading for this week, new moons. And as promised, I have two guests that want to speak for themselves regarding these retrogrades. And the retrogrades that they are referring to are both Mercury and Jupiter. So here is your first guest. I will let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Mercury, the planet everyone loves to blame for their bad texts and worse decisions. I've heard the rumors. Apparently, I'm responsible for every typo, travel delay, and emotional meltdown between now and December. Cute, but very false. I don't actually move backward, by the way. No, you do. Well, emotionally. I just hold up the mirror. You call that chaos. I call it accountability. See, when I retrograde, I'm not here to ruin your life. I'm here to rewind it, to make you reread the fine print on your choices, to check your tone before you check your texts, to remind you that clarity is my love language. I rule over Gemini and Virgo. Translation, I'm fluent in both overthinking and oversharing. So yes, Josie and I are basically best friends, but I digress. My retrograde isn't about fear, it's about finesse. Reread your words, revisit your plans, reclaim your voice. Because sometimes the reason your message doesn't go through is because it was never meant to be received. And before you curse me out, may I at least suggest proofreading that angry text you're about to send your ex? Oh, and new moons, it was nice to meet you.
Okay, so what other witch could ever say that they got the planets on their shelves? And last but definitely not least, the biggest and the baddest has something that he would like to say as well.
Greetings, mortals. Jupiter here, planet of growth, optimism, and questionable spending habits. I'm the voice in your head that whispers, you deserve it, and also the one that later says, well, at least it was on sale. Normally, I'm all about more joy, more faith, more fries on the side. But when I go retrograde, I ask a different question. What if enough is actually enough? Now, Josie and I go way back. She's one of my favorite earthlings, always trying to do 1,000 things at once. And I keep telling her, darling, expansion doesn't mean exhaustion. But does she listen? Well, sometimes. I've parked myself in Cancer for a while. The sign of home, comfort, nostalgia, and emotions. I'll be here until March 2026. Unpacking your emotional baggage one suitcase at a time. Cancer energy wants to feed you tamales and ask about your childhood. My job is to make sure you stop expanding your empire long enough to remember what makes you feel safe inside it. Not every kind of growth is visible. Sometimes your biggest win is just feeling at home in your own life. So no, you don't need another project. You need a blanket, a drink, and a moment to think. And sure, Cancer might be the zodiac's emotional hurricane, but tears are spells too. Take it from me, the planet of big dreams and bigger lessons. When life slows down, it's not rejection, it's reflection. You're not losing momentum, you're gaining meaning. And since I'm supposed to be friendly to the Lua Nova listeners, hi, mortals. You have officially been graced by my acknowledgement.
Wow, I'm one of your favorite Earthlings. Thank you, Jupiter. And who knows, maybe in the future I will have another planet stop by. Maybe Mother Earth will come by and curse us out. I'm not really sure. But for those of you who have asked, I am definitely going to be gatekeeping the program that I use in order to give the segments that I give you. And just know that, whenever you hear commercials and you hear the terms and conditions, that I am using the same programming that commercials, the radio, etc., that they use. So, I am happy about that. I'm happy that I'm able to bring that to you, and that is thanks to my new moons that are always contributing so that I am able to continue to get new software, etc., for all of you. And for those of my Brazilian new moons who have asked about the parts that are in Brazilian Portuguese, I am the one who writes out anything that is said on the show. Okay, so anything that is said that I didn't come up with, yes, all of that was written by me. That's why you don't hear any Spanish, because I don't write very well in Spanish. So, and forgive the Brazilian Portuguese if it sounds too textbook, but I wanted it to sound right, if that makes any sense. But I hope that you have enjoyed today's special guest. And with that, I need to check my phone because I know I heard it go off. 1 second. Oh, we got a text from Spirit. And this week's text from Spirit says, let's see, 222, abundant blessings. Abundance is flowing toward you. Keep your thoughts positive and watch your dreams manifest. Oop. Obrigada, valeu, and thank you for aligning with the frequency of the Lua Nova podcast. Remember, if you would like to book a personal tarot reading with me in 2026, if you want to submit a case for Court of the New Moon, or if you just want to join the Patreon, which I know I haven't talked a lot about Patreon on the show, that's because I need to update the Patreon, but there's a ton of content over there that only Patreon members get. Or if you're looking for the Venmo and Cash App for Lua Nova, all of that information is right there in the show notes. Go to luanovapodcast.net or courtofthenewmoon.com to find all of the information that I have discussed with you many times, and always check the show notes in general. That way you can find out what the episode is about or any information that you are needing from me. Hug your loved ones tightly, new moons. November is the month of gratitude. This is something that we talk a lot about in November in the Lua Nova realm. And so I just want you to hug your loved ones so tightly. Tell them that you are grateful for them. Make sure that you never, ever miss an opportunity to just tell them thank you and I love you. Okay. Those go a long way. So have a safe rest of your week, new moons. I love you and thank you for being here. I appreciate you for helping my dreams to come true. I, from what I've heard, have helped some of yours come true as well. That will actually be in an episode coming at the end of the season. Like I talked to you about, I have some of you that have contributed to an episode where we're going to be celebrating you, and we're going to be doing that at the end of season 3. I was going to say at the end of season 4, like I discussed in December. There's also some upcoming pre-recorded episodes for December. So just giving you a heads up that pretty soon I'm going to be recording back to back to back. That way for all of December, my team doesn't have to worry about doing anything, and any bonuses will be on the Patreon only for December. Okay. You all know that by now the Lua Nova team, typically from Halloween to, I'd say like the end of October to the very beginning of January, I don't expect much out of them. Okay. There's a lot going on. There's holidays. And as a witch, I heavily celebrate autumn and winter. So that's important. And it's also important that I get these episodes out for you. If you are new to my show, there are brand new episodes of the Lua Nova podcast on all major podcast platforms every single Monday. Bonus episodes air on Fridays, and Court of the New Moon, which is coming in season 4, will be airing twice a month on Wednesdays. All right. I think I've covered everything, so I will let you go. Ciao, ciao. To book a personal tarot reading with me, submit your question for the 6th House Virgo segment, and your question just might be read right here on the show. or read the full disclaimer on spiritual consent and listener responsibility, visit luanovapodcast.net. To submit a case for Court of the New Moon, go to courtofthenewmoon.com. If you would like to become a Patreon member, download the Patreon app or go to patreon.com/the Luanova podcast. Support is also appreciated, so I want to thank you for those of you who always send in donations, and you can do so via Venmo or Cash App. The Venmo username is @Luanova. The Cash App username is $Luanova Podcast. Copyright 2025 Luanova. All rights reserved.